Cleopatra. Who was Cleopatra? What did she look like, and what population group or race, if you want to use that word, or ethnic group did she belong to? If Cleopatra went down to the Department of Motor Vehicles or had to fill out a job application, when it comes to the race ethnicity boxes, what would she be obligated to check off? This is an issue that has become a thing recently, and it really shouldn't be. The two questions: what did Cleopatra look like, and what ethnic group did she belong to? There are really simple answers to those questions that are beyond dispute that I will get to in a moment. So it was Caesar's. It was the anniversary of Julius Caesar's assassination. I guess that would have been 4 days ago. And online there was, whenever Julius Caesar stuff pops up, you get Cleopatra stuff that pops up. And one of the things I saw was a woman at Stanford who put together a composite. I don't know where she got this information from. It seems as though she just made it up. What Cleopatra would have looked like. She came up with this, which is very silly. So, as I said, these questions aren't difficult. What to answer? What did Cleopatra look like? The answer to that is we don't know. We just don't know. There are descriptions about her for people like Plutarch, who were around many decades after her death, may have had, almost certainly did have access to information that we don't, that is no longer around. Maybe reliefs or paintings, or an actual bust that he was able to see, or something like that. Or there was just a great deal of information from writers who were around when Cleopatra was, that Plutarch was able to get. Yeah, so he had some idea. He describes her as being not all that attractive, but very clever, and having red hair. Really doesn't tell us much. There's just too many question marks about what could be going on there. There are coins that were struck during Cleopatra's lifetime, like this one right here with her image on it. Coins from that time, you really aren't going to know much about a person's image unless there's something specific or exaggerated. There's some, like, let's say the person had a especially long face and chin or something like that. You might see that expressed on the coin, maybe, but sometimes the general or emperor just wanted to be seen that way. If they had a beard on the coin, then they probably had a beard or something like that. But otherwise, you just can't tell much because the proportions are just so off. You have to have a chin. Chins are never proportioned like this. The mouths almost always look like this, just kind of dumb and open because, limited space, and did not have the technology to create likenesses, say, of Thomas Jefferson on our nickel. But you get the idea. We can't tell really much of anything from this. Now, this bust here is almost certainly from a member of the Ptolemy family. So that's the family that Cleopatra came from, but almost certainly not Cleopatra. So this is what a woman in her family looks like. And that could, maybe tell us something. She kind of looks like a Karen, and kind of as described, where not particularly beautiful, but, pleasant looking, and kind of has this flat mouth. Like I can imagine her expressing displeasure at the cook because the food wasn't seasoned correctly. So we don't know. We really don't know what she looks like. We can only guess. And anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is not telling the truth. Perhaps someday some undiscovered thing, bust that we can be sure was Cleopatra from that time, or something will be discovered that could give us a pretty good idea. But unless that happens, which seems pretty unlikely, we just aren't ever going to know. Now, what race was she, or what ethnic group or population group did she belong to? Cleopatra was European. Something that kind of clouds this issue in these discussions. Yes, she was Queen of Egypt, or Pharaoh of Egypt, I guess. Queen of Egypt is how she saw her role. The Ptolemies and the Macedonian Greeks who ruled Egypt were a foreign conquering people. They saw themselves that way, and the Egyptian people saw themselves that way, and it was an absolutely brutal apartheid system. Greeks and Egyptians were not allowed to marry by law. In fact, the way things were set up, they didn't see much of one another. And it would have been unthinkable for a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty to have intermarried with a local Egyptian. The issue of what ethnic group the Egyptians at the time belonged to, that's a different issue. Um, but Egypt was a very different place by this time. Egypt, the glory days of Ramses the Great and the Egyptian Empire were, by the time of Cleopatra, was 1,200 years prior. The pyramids were 2,600 years prior. That's when they were built. So the remarkable amount of continuity in Egypt from that time up until the time of Cleopatra, as far as religions go and customs and this type of thing, really, really remarkable. But Egypt was nevertheless a different place. Many different population groups had come into Egypt by that time, where it had remained relatively ethnically homogeneous. After the Bronze Age, that began to change, or the collapse of the Bronze Age. So Cleopatra was a foreign queen ruling over Egypt. And the Ptolemies were, if we go back, it would have been 270 or 280 years, whatever the case may be. Cleopatra's great, 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 however many greats are needed, their grandfather was a lieutenant of Alexander the Great. And when Alexander the Great died, his empire was chopped up into what became known as the Diadochi. His lieutenants, who probably had him off after struggles and a few battles and negotiations, Ptolemy ended up with Egypt. And there created an absolute, a brutal apartheid state that was designed to just extract as much wealth out of Egypt for the Greek ruling class as possible. And the Egyptians were not happy. The Egyptians were much happier, it seems, by all accounts, under Persian rule prior to Alexander the Great coming to town. It imposed all of this Hellenic culture and this type of thing. But the Macedonians, bloodlines was everything. They were so hardcore about this. And so there are some instances in Caesar's maternal ancestry where, like, her great-grandmother or something, one of her great-grandmothers or great-great married a member of the Seleucid royalty. The Seleucids were another part of that split up Alexandrian empire, and operating the same way. You had this Macedonian Greek elite ruling class ruling over the local population. And so when Cleopatra's great-great-great-great-grandmother married someone from the Seleucid dynasty, I've heard folks try to describe it, well, she may have been more Arab looking because of this, because the Seleucids, the member of the people who her great-great-grandmother would have married, same thing. Macedonian Greeks, it would have been for sure. And they were so hardcore about bloodlines. Like, the Macedonians, when somebody was on the outs, they were going to get whacked. They didn't just kill him, they killed his whole family. Like, that's what happened in Alexander the Great's dispute with Parmenio. Parmenio was his father's star general, but the power dispute came. It wasn't just kill Parmenio, it was kill his sons, kill his family. And when Alexander the Great died as well, I mean, these guys were brutal. His infant or toddler children, two that outlived him, were murdered. Like, blood was everything. And so there's just absolutely no chance that Cleopatra's mother or father or one of their, I mean, within reason, there is really no chance that they would have, copulated and, created offspring like that. No chance at all. And Cleopatra marked the end, obviously, of that having offspring with not one but two very not Greek, very much not members of the Romans, Mark Antony and Caesar. But that was a dramatic break from things. And yeah, Cleopatra was the first in that line to even learn Egyptian. So she apparently made some effort to kind of Egyptianize herself. But yeah, Cleopatra was a white girl for sure. She was said to have red hair. And the people of Macedon and Greece at that time, as recent DNA tests showed, had less non-white or non-European admixture during the classical period than they do now. So since then, there are Turkish invasions and all the rest of it, Tartars and the other people from the east, the Avyars, I think they were called, all these different folks. Actually, take that back. I think that was Hungary. But many, many different foreign folks have come in to Greece and added to their, gene pool. Not to the degree that folks assume. This has all become apparent in the last like 7 or 8 years. where a Greek person who can trace all their ancestry, at least two generations in to Greece currently, as opposed to they have a lot of immigrants nowadays. But among those people, they're very, very similar without a whole lot of admixture. Very, very similar to the Greeks of both the Classical Age and the Bronze Age. So not anywhere near as much population displacement as people had thought. But there has been some. And so, yeah, Alexander was thought to have had blonde hair. That's how he was said. The Macedonians were the northern part of Greece. There's kind of a story there unto itself. They were a bit hardier, a bit rougher, absorbed some of these Celtic and Germanic invasions from the north. And so, a little bit less Mediterranean. Prior to the Peloponnesian War, there was some dispute among the Greeks if they were even truly Greek, even though they spoke a Greek language. Some dispute. They were ultimately allowed to compete in the Olympics, and they decided, I guess these guys are Greek enough. Well, if we fast forward 150 years or so to the time of Alexander the Great, the Macedonians have managed to become the kings of Greece, and so they made up a majority of the conquering armies. And so when everything was split up, divided, the Macedonians got first dibs. They got to put themselves and their families at the top of the heap because they were the guys that did, they were the conquering guys. And then the many Greek colonists came behind them because farmland and, did a little bit of displacing of the local population. But that's how it went. Cleopatra was a white girl, and we don't know what she looked like. So I hope this has helped someone.